Walt, I'm so honored that you're joining us today, and truly, I don't want to waste a whole lot of time, man, because I want to get into the meat this week. This week, so guys, I'm this is a personal friend of mine. Unfortunately, not a teammate because I think Walt was gone 2 years before I got there. Um, and just an amazing career. And Walt, I won't steal any of your thunder. So, if you will, man, introduce yourself, and the floor is yours. And sic 'em Bears.
Sikkim Bears. Great to be here, man. Thank you for the invitation and for having me on your show. And this is pretty cool. I don't do these very often, but this is a good opportunity to spend some time with you and maybe talk a little bit about my road to where I am now. And I don't know if it's that interesting, but it is my story. So thank you for giving me the opportunity. I'm Walter Abercrombie, and I am the executive director of the Baylor B Association, which is our alumni organization at Baylor for former athletes. And I also have the title as associate athletic director. And it's been a great job for me getting the chance to spend I guess my time during the day working with ex players, which I mean that's what I am. I'm an ex player, and I relate a lot to the guys that I get to work with on a daily basis, and try to keep them. I guess the objective of my job is to try to keep former players engaged with the university, engaged with the athletic department specifically, um, and just keep them informed. Be that face to represent them within the athletic department. And so I've been doing this for the last 20 years. It's hard to believe, I've been here that long, but
Crazy.
That's the reality of it. I'm from Waco, Texas. So Baylor University is in Waco. Um, I was born here. My father was a pastor of a church. My mother was a registered nurse. Both were Army veterans, and I kind of grew up in a very disciplined family. Being Baptist, that was one discipline, and then being married, being raised by two Army veterans. There was a lot of discipline going on in my house. I went to University High School in Waco, and it's a small high school. You may have heard the name of LaDainian Tomlinson. A lot of folks will remember him because he went to the same high school that I went to, and obviously not the same time, but he came along later and just wiped out all of the records that I had at little University High. Chose to go to Baylor University. I was not heavily recruited, although I was recruited by a few of the Southwest Conference schools, the old conference the Baylor used to be in, and schools like Rice got recruited by SMU, and I guess the biggest school that I was recruited by, and that was the University of Arkansas. And I don't know why Arkansas, but they saw something in me, and they had a bunch of running backs. But I was fascinated with Arkansas, beautiful campus, and it gave me an opportunity maybe to get far away from home. So I was really looking at Arkansas, and the thing that made the decision for me is Grant Taft was the coach here at Baylor when I was being recruited, and he was somewhat of a religious guy, and my father invited him to come. This is when I was being recruited my senior year, to speak at his church in Killeen, Texas, Marlboro Heights Missionary Baptist Church in Killeen. And Coach Taft came and spoke at the morning service, the 11 o'clock service. I mean, he gave him the key spotlight. And Coach Taft preached a sermon doing that morning service. And man, after that, all of those women, all the members, all the deacons in the church. There was no way I was going to go anywhere else with Baylor University. He impressed them that much. And so I chose to go to Baylor. Had a really good experience. The first game I ever played in, my freshman year, was against Texas A&M, and they had a really good team. And how I got kind of started in my career is that I had 207 yards rushing in that first game as a freshman. And that was kind of like threw me onto the scene on the national stage because I was national back of the week, and then just things just took off from there. And so I'm very blessed in a lot of ways that I got the opportunity to play. But that's how I kind of made it onto the scene. Went on to the NFL after my career at Baylor. I was a first round pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I was there for 6 years, and then went to play in Philadelphia for a couple of years. And then, man, this is what I kind of the meat of my talk today is really about trying to figure out how to reinvent myself. Now, I retired at the age of 32 years old. Now, that's a young age, and all I'd ever known was football, playing the game. And there are some things that are relatable in trying to succeed in business. You take hard work is important, focus. And so but I had to take that and then, turn it into something that I was not used to. I was being an athlete, used to being an athlete, but now I had to reinvent myself and find something I was passionate about and start and begin the process of trying to change, shift things in my life from being an athlete to being a regular guy, going to work every day, trying to make money, raising a family, that kind of stuff. So it was a real challenge for me. But I started to do it. First thing I did is that I needed to go back to school, and I had a desire to get a master's degree. So I did decide to go back to Baylor and obtain my master's. And while I was in college, in graduate school, I had some time to think about what I would look like in another position, and I really began to develop a plan to get into administration, possibly be a coach. And so I do know that I wanted to stay involved in that. So I made a plan to become, say, an athletic director. And so made a plan and then began working the plan. I would encourage anybody, if you ever find yourself in a position where you have to try to reinvent yourself in some way, you're leaving one field, get to another field, and it's all different, got some different components. I would just develop a plan that you could be comfortable with, a plan that's going to lead you in the area you need to go in, and then just start working that plan. Once you're satisfied with the plan, work that plan, work it hard, and don't be deterred, And so anyway, that's kind of what got me on the pathway to transitioning from being an athlete into being an administrator in college.
Walter, and if you'll allow me to step in, it's, already I'm hearing the similarities of, reinventing yourself. I think every week we as athletes, we had to reinvent ourselves because we were playing a different team, right? We had a game plan in place, and we had to practice, right? Practice, right? We're talking about practice, right? And then we had to perform on a Saturday. And so I see so many similarities from, what you did as a former athlete to developing your business skills. So that's what I saw and I heard in what you just shared.
And that's exactly right. The things that we come we come to the table with as athletes is you're used to hard work, you know, and no, not a single athlete will tell you you got to put in the work in order to be successful. And the more I've seen situations where extremely talented people come on the team, extremely talented, a lot more talented than maybe me. But what they're missing is that element of hard work. And so everybody that makes it to the NFL has a great deal of talent. The ones who stay or stick around, and ones who rise to the level of a certain level of success, are the ones who work, who put in that extra work. I mean, some of the greatest athletes I've seen, I couldn't believe how hard they work. I mean, when I think about Walter Payton, for example, great running back, but his work schedule in terms of getting up early in the morning, running the hills, and the extra time in the weight room, the extra time that he spent after practice catching passes, something that he ended up being pretty good at. He was a great runner, but a running back out of the backfield catching those passes. He told me once that he didn't start off being a good receiver. He just started working extra hard after practice with the quarterback, maybe the third team quarterback. Said, hey, come over and let's catch some passes. And he began catching 100 passes every day after practice. Well, eventually you're gonna get better at it. But he was one of the great ones, and that's just one example of just putting in extra work in trying to reach your goals and stay at the top. Teamwork is something that most athletes will also tell you that they learn. It's all part of being an athlete on a team. Is you learn your place on a team, the value of your place on the team, but it also helps you appreciate the contributions of others. And I can tell you in my job right now that I couldn't be successful in what I do if it were not the efforts of my team, the folks that are on that are helping me in my area. I got to tell you that if you're in a position of being a manager, you know this already, I'm sure. But if you're a manager, you've got a team, it's extremely important to not only recognize it yourself, the contributions of your teammates, but also to make sure that you communicate your appreciation for the work that they're providing for you. That is something that it shouldn't be taken for granted because not everybody's good at it. Just to acknowledge the contribution of others is extremely important. I am very blessed to have Ben as a friend, and my son is Wesley Abercrombie. He's getting, I think he's close to 30 years old now, but he graduated from Baylor and he got into sales in sports, and he's doing really a terrific job in his current job, in his current profession. But he came home one day and he said, Dad, I want to get into real estate. I'm really fascinated with real estate. You know about it in real estate? I said, yeah, I do know somebody in real estate. Um, Ben Baker. He's a friend. I'll put you in touch with him. And so Ben, I think Wesley gave him a call, and Ben was so gracious and accepting of him, and said, "Yeah, I'll teach you a few things." And so Wesley went to Ben. Ben helped him, and Wesley's now sort of reaching for his dreams in real estate, and Ben helped him along the way. And I always tell Ben this because, look, my job is to raise a young man and hope he's successful, but you have folks that are in your life that can also help in furthering the advancement of your kids. And so Ben, I will recognize you right now, man, for helping in the job that I have to do in raising my son.
And you did an amazing job there. That he's a great kid, and Wes is succeeding on both levels in his current job. And we say dual career here. This is, real estate isn't his side gig, right? He's got two careers, and he's succeeding at both of them because he brings it. He's a student, right? I love that, and I love that kid. I mean, I think he beat me last month in production. So, and I applaud that. Matter of fact, I want everybody on this call to beat me, if you can, beat me, right? Because we're what is that? I forget the tide and ships and all that. Rising tide lifts all ships. I think that's what it is. But like everyone on here, Walt, they're all business owners, and I think we're all working to serve and strengthen our families and build strong communities. And so I appreciate your contribution to that, and everyone who joins us week in and week out. I appreciate. I feel the love. So go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
I will say this. I wrote this down because I think that it's something that's not talked about a whole lot in journeys to be successful in business. And this is what I'm doing now. I'm raising money for the university. I'm keeping people engaged. We have to make business decisions all the time. Um, as an athlete, I learned this being an athlete, particularly at the pro level. You see a lot of emotion in a lot of athletes, and when you watch them on television, there's a lot of emotion. One of the, I mean, it was a special moment. I thought when I was watching the Super Bowl game, and Chris Stapleton sang the national anthem, and I don't know how many of y'all saw that, but the camera panned to one of the players, or maybe it was the coach, I think, and there was tears coming down his eyes doing the singing of the national anthem. Now that's an emotion that an example of an emotion. Or guys scoring touchdowns, they're making tackles, and they get up and they express themselves emotionally. Emotion is extremely important, but controlling emotion is probably more important. I had to learn how to control my emotions in order for me to be the best pro athlete I could be. And I'm going to tell you why that was important. Because during the game, you have hundreds of thousands of people watching you in a stadium, but there are millions that are watching around the world. And there were things that were being said to me across that line of scrimmage. And Ben, you could relate to this. They're not always nice to you when they're talking to you, are they? They'll talk about your girlfriend, they'll talk about your mama, they'll talk about whatever that's going to take you completely out of your game. Right. And they try to do that to get inside your head. There were cases when I would be tackled, and I'm at the bottom of the pile, and there are defensive players, just right on top of me, looking right into my helmet and spitting into my helmet, just to my face, and I can't do anything because I'm holding the ball, and that has happened. But a lot of NFL players will try things like that, particularly if you're a wide receiver, a quarterback, or a running back, just to take you out of your game, to get you on an emotional level that has you more focused on him than on what it is your job is to do. So when in my job now, I have to, whether decisions that have been made that I can't control or things that I don't like, or maybe one of my coworkers said something to me that I didn't particularly care for. I've learned that it's better, creates a better outcome when I'm able to control the emotions that come across my life regularly. If I get overly emotional, I can do something that could damage a relationship. I could do something that keeps somebody from wanting to be part of Baylor University. I could do something that could cost me my job if I'm not controlling my emotions. And so I think it's not talked about a lot, but to keep a level of emotion, I think when you're doing your job, steady, Eddie, and it allows you to think clearly. It allows you to get through the noise of, I call it emotion noise. Just like all the fans, if I'm in an opposing stadium and I go into the game and you hear all the fans or whatever booing or whatever, you have to be able to block those things out in order to think clearly and kind of do what you need to do to get the job done. I just wanted to touch on that one point.
Well, that's a powerful point. And I think keeping that in check, again, majority of the folks here are real estate professionals. And so we understand that clearly. Dealing with buyers, sellers, there's so many emotions and my best buddy on the call, she's we always talk about being the calming influence in that situation. So I never let them see me sweat ever, ever, ever. So appreciate you sharing that. So wow. Well, as we close, well, is there I think I wanted to ask, and you had already touched on Walter. I think there were so many amazing players that you got to play with, go, in the battle with. I think of Mike, and that was our Baylor days. Is there, was Franco there when you were there? He had already left.
Now, Franco was there. I got a chance, and just for your audience, man, I'm really old. I mean, so if you look on television, you see, Terry Bradshaw, the great quarterback who was at Pittsburgh. He looks so old now, and I just, I look at him, I'm like, gosh, man, I played with that guy.
Right.
What does that say about me, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I played with Terry Bradshaw. I played with Franco Harris. He was in the backfield when I got there. Two great men. I mean, just outstanding individuals. I mean, I'm blessed to have had the opportunity to play with them. Wide receivers, for some of you older folks, you remember the name Lynn Swan, who was the wide receiver. John Stallworth, Benny Cunningham was in the tight end position. Let's see, on defense, we had the great Jack Lambert, the Hall of Famer. We had Donnie Shell. Gosh, man, Jack Ham.
Talent, Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame guys. And
yes, yes,
Mean Joe Green. You
yes.
could just go on and on and on. These were icons, and for them to accept me onto that football team, my rookie season, meant a whole lot to me because I hadn't played a down yet in the NFL, and those guys were already headed to the NFL Hall of Fame, and they'd been to 5 Super Bowls at that time, or 4 Super Bowls at that time, and so I knew they were real professionals. And let me tell you this, and I'll probably end with this, Ben. The experience that I got just playing with those pros, and I would say that one of the things that I love about my son being connected with you, Ben, is that he's with the right guy. You're a pro in every aspect of what you do. He's learning from one of the best. And so when I went to the Steelers organization, I got a chance to play not only with good NFL players, I'm talking about great NFL players, Hall of Famers, guys who have been there, done that. And so what I would encourage your audience to do is be around great professionals, people that are principled in what they do, people that are focused, they know how to win, and they're winning. They got receipts for their winning, right? And so you can see what they're doing, how they do it. You can learn a lot just from being around folks who are really successful. And so I was fortunate because I was drafted and I had to go there and be around those guys. But what a tremendous opportunity it was for me to be around such great players. And I'm very thankful for that.
Wow. Well, I appreciate it. What's crazy is a few of us on the call, we were just in Pittsburgh a few weeks ago, and what I thought of that city was not what that city delivered. Passionate, passionate fan base that we know. But I thought it was just blue collar, ugly, dirty, dingy. I mean, the city was amazing. The views were amazing. And so I'm so appreciative of now having my mind changed because of that. And I understand if you're an athlete in that community, man, you're revered, right? Um, you've gotta you gotta bring it, right? And we talk here all the time. You'll see Steve, who's my buddy to my right. We talk about eagles fly with eagles, and I think that's the point that you just made, right? You surround yourself with good people, principled people, right, that are working hard, that do the right thing, and you I think you'll be elevated because we say it all the time. You are the sum of the five people that you spend the most time with. And so I appreciate you bringing that point, man. I appreciate you bringing the meat this week. Well, and I tell you, man, I'll see you this weekend. So it'll be fun. And guys, I appreciate you joining each and every week. And if you didn't get a nugget from today, that's a you problem, right? That's a you problem because he brought it. And if you thought it was all about football and athletics, then again, you missed the point. You missed the point. And I know no one on this call missed it. So, Walt, I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you guys. And again, we will see you next week. And trust me, I've got another amazing speaker who will bring the meat next week also. So, Walt, you good?
I'm good, man. Don't let Ben fool you. He was a good football player, man. He doesn't talk about it a whole lot, but he brought the meat in football. He really did.
Well, again, I appreciate that, guys. We'll see you next week. Y'all be good.